Well, the Razorbacks defeat Kansas in the Liberty Bowl so easy with zero problems at all and zero stress. That didn't happen at all, but they still won. And what an incredibly wild game. I don't even know really where to start. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to try to make sense of it all. KJ Jefferson is still that dude. And also Razorback Basketball drops their first conference game on the road in SEC to start conference play. But it's all going to be coming up on today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I'm also your host of Out of Bounds. You can catch every weekday afternoon from 1 to 4 on 103.7 The Buzz and 103.7thebuzz.com. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Thursday as I have just made the trip back from Memphis for the Arkansas Liberty Bowl. And man, oh man, what a stupid but great game. I don't even know how to describe what I watched last night. I'm sure a lot of you don't as well, but we're going to do our best here on the podcast to make that happen. And Arkansas wins in triple overtime by a final score of 55-53 over Kansas. And they now finish the season officially at 7-6 with a winning record and now have won 2 straight bowl games in this one. Just this type of game may have been that I hated this game. Like, I am so happy Arkansas won. I will never apologize for a win. I'll never say that a win is bad or that I'm not going to, enjoy it, whatever it may be, nor should any of you. But this win was one that I really did not expect this game to become, at least as the game went along. You talk about so many missteps, so many mistakes, so many great plays, so many big plays by both teams offensively and defensively at times. You talk about horribly officiated. All of that happened in this game. It did not lack drama whatsoever. So let's try to walk through exactly what happened here and try to make sense of it all. Arkansas, to start this game, had their best first quarter ever, like maybe even under Sam Pittman. They scored 24 points in the first quarter. Arkansas has not done that all year long. We know that they've had a ton of struggles when it came to them being able to get going early and really start well in these games. But Kansas, for just how the game went and seeing how it all played out, it just really worked to Arkansas's favor. I mean, they started off the game, they got a field goal, which, you always want to go touchdowns, but they get a field goal and the Kansas responds with a touchdown. Arkansas goes 3 and out and punts, and then Kansas goes 3 and out and punts. But then Arkansas gets 2 plays and a touchdown, a big bomb to Matt Landers. But then Arkansas kicks it off. Kansas muffs the kickoff. Arkansas gets it back. Next play, boom, touchdown. Before you know it, in the blink of an eye, Arkansas is up 17-7. And then the next possession for Kansas, they throw a pick. Arkansas scores another touchdown. And then Kansas throws another pick. So, like, Arkansas really started off tremendously in this game, especially offensively. They're up 24-7. And really in the first half, just absolutely dominated. Because then in the second quarter, Arkansas scores another touchdown. Goes up 31-7. Then Kansas scores a touchdown. Then Arkansas gets a pick. And then it ends up going to the end of half, where Arkansas honestly should have scored another touchdown if it wasn't for an interception thrown there in the end zone, which KJ Jefferson, which we'll talk about him specifically here in a second, had one of the greatest plays you'll ever see. So Arkansas was up 31-13 in this game. And considering the fact that Rocket Sanders went out with an injury, as well as Tykeus Crawford, both players who had started on this team, we know how good Rocket was. And we know how many players that opted out of this team and of this game. This was just, they were very much on skeleton crew in a lot of cases for who wasn't on the team and who they were having available to play. But you got to give a shout out to Marion Harris, who came in as a true freshman, stepped up for Tykeus Crawford, and a lot of credit to A.J. Green and Rashad Dubinion, the only 2 running backs on the team that really carried the load for Arkansas and did a really great job. So it was all Arkansas in the first half. They were doing such a good job of just controlling the game, controlling the rush attack. Kansas didn't have an answer for KJ Jefferson. They were beating Kansas up, and it was 100% all Arkansas. And then in the second half, Kansas gets the ball back, but they punt, and Arkansas, the very next possession, scores a touchdown. 10 plays, 80 yards in 3.5 minutes roughly. And they're up 38-13 in this game. 38-13 in this game in the second half. Arkansas did not score another touchdown the rest of the game, or regulation, I should say. But Kansas did, because then it started getting a little bit, all right, well, maybe they played a little bit more conservative, and then Kansas ended up scoring a touchdown, making it 38-20. Okay, well, Arkansas then goes 3 and out again, second straight time, and then Kansas gets a field goal. All right, well, then Arkansas punts again after 4 plays. And it's still 38-23. Arkansas still in good shape, but then Kansas punts. They go 3 and out. But then Arkansas punts. They go 3 and out. Well, then Arkansas gets a huge play late in the game with literally just under 4 minutes to go. Turnover on downs. Okay, so let's set this up. Arkansas is up by 15 points with less than 4 minutes to go, and they have the ball. Do you know the likelihood of Arkansas not winning this game? Like just the percentages with that? It's extremely low. But don't worry, this is Arkansas we're talking about. So then Arkansas gets the ball and does a pretty good job, has some good plays. They have 5 plays to go 64 yards. They're in field goal range. They're just kind of running out the clock a little bit. Kansas is out of timeouts. And then Matt Landers on a reverse play, which was a beautiful play, mind you, gets called for a fumble. Kansas gets it, returns it back for a good ways. And everyone's like, whoa, this is bad. But then I was at the stadium. I saw the replay on the board. I'm like, oh, no, that's not a fumble. His arm was down. Like you could see it. His arm was down. And then I checked on Twitter for people who was watching the broadcast, and they were all like, oh, yeah, he's 100% down. That's not a fumble. That's not a fumble. Well, the Pac-12 crew, I guess they're in the official room, they said, nah, that's actually a fumble. Over in the Pac-12, we call that a fumble. And so they upheld the call, which was baffling. Just baffling that they did that. I'm like, oh, crap. Okay, well, after that happens and Kansas goes 7 plays because they get the ball at Arkansas's 48, 7 plays and they score a touchdown, and it is now 38-30. Well, geez, okay, well, there's a minute left in this game, so it's fine. Let's just get the onside kick and it should be good to go. Well, that's okay because Arkansas did not get the onside kick. Kansas did. They recovered the onside kick, and one of the worst onside kick coverages you'll ever see. Now, I will go out and say this. I'm not defending everybody because everyone was so mad at the special teams. Scott found all this stuff. Not an excuse, just a reason. Remember, folks, those guys who were on that onside kick, that, Cans team, most of those guys haven't done it all year long because a lot of the guys that entered into the portal or, transferred out or opted out or whatever, they were on the hands team. So you have almost an entirely new group of players on these special teams. Like they just, the bowl practice was the first time they've ever been out there. Not making excuses, just saying that could cause some problems. And that's what happened. Nobody recovered it. They didn't go to the ball. Kansas gets the ball back. Oh, gosh, surely they won't go for another touchdown. Well, they did. 4 plays, boom, touchdown, and a 2-point conversion to tie the game at 38. It had to be this way. It had to be this way. It's Razorback football we're talking about, folks. You can't be easy. You can't just be out there getting easy plays. Like, that's not how this works. You got to go out there and you got to know that the Razorback faithful and the fans and the team and everything, they're going to make it as difficult as humanly possible. So going to overtime, Kansas gets the ball first, 5 plays, touchdown, easy. But then Arkansas gets the ball back. Luckily for them, it was just as easy, even easier, because they get 2 plays and a touchdown. Boom. Going to the second overtime, tied at 45. Now, here we go to the second overtime. People forget about this, but when you score a touchdown in the second overtime, you have to go for 2. That's the way it is. Well, Arkansas gets the ball first. They get a touchdown in 2 plays, and they get the 2-point conversion. Whew, okay. So then Kansas gets the ball, and they're going for the touch. They score a touchdown. Okay. Now you got to stop the 2-point conversion. Well, Jalen Daniels is there for Kansas. He gets it. He can't find anyone open. He tries to run it in. And Arkansas tackles him short of the goal line. Game over. Everybody's celebrating, but there's a flag on the play because the officials felt that Quincy McAdoo targeted Jalen Daniels, and they threw a 15-yard flag, and he has been ejected for the game. And the stupidest rule of all is that he's going to be suspended for the first half of next season, or the first half of the first game for Arkansas next season. Stupid. I don't think it was targeting. I don't know what targeting is. I understand that, but to me, it was just him trying to keep him out of the end zone. I don't think he truly targeted. I think he hit him with his shoulder. I saw that. Again, maybe people can disagree and say it differently, but from what everybody I saw and people I know and respect, especially national guys, they said that was not targeting at all. That was not targeting at all. But they called it. They called it because I think that the refs actually had Kansas money line. That's the only thing I can figure out. So they get another chance, and guess what? They score a 2-point conversion, and we're going to the third overtime. Now, Arkansas gets it on the 2-point conversion, because now you have to just go for 2 points. 2-point conversion plays the rest of the overtime. One shot, that's it. Arkansas nails it with the first. They get the play, they ball first, nail it. KJ Jefferson, beautiful play call, beautiful design right there to Rashad Binion. They got it. Then Kansas goes, and they fail. And you saw there in the video there at the very beginning, they run this wide receiver reverse pass thing and throws it out of the end zone. I think it was Jason Bean was his name. He could have ran that ball in. I think he would have gotten it and they would have gone on, but he decided to throw it, goes out of bounds. Arkansas wins. Boom. End of story. Finally, it's over. Stupid, crazy, insane game that I don't even know how to make sense out of. Don't even know how to make sense. But Jalen Daniels for Kansas threw for 554 yards and 5 touchdowns. And Kansas only ran the ball for 59 yards. So Kansas could not run the ball against Arkansas, but boy, they could pass it. And it was a great game between both teams. And, give Kansas a lot of credit for coming back. You got to blame Arkansas a lot for allowing that to happen. That should never happen under any circumstance. I don't care about anything else. That should never happen, but it did. And, say what you want. I understand you're frustrated. I understand that people say there's a lot of bad stuff, whatever it is, but you won. You won the game. You gave up a 25-point lead in the second half. A lot of teams would crumble. A lot of teams would give up. A lot of teams would lose those games, but you still kept fighting and you still found a way to win. That's how I'm looking at it. Silver linings and all. But you're 7-6. You finished with a winning record, and now you're moving into the next season with a little bit of momentum and some more work to do for sure. But the reason you won this game is because one person only. And we're going to talk about him on the other side of the break. But first, BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. So get all the latest odds and trends for every professional amateur league out there. From pro football to college bowl season to basketball to World Cup, they've got it all at BetOnline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, they also have those at BetOnline as well. So they're always the fastest and easiest way to get on all your sports betting info. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more over at BetOnline, where the game starts.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so let's talk about my QB1. Let's talk about my guy. Let's talk about our guy, KJ freaking Jefferson. KJ, I think everyone is a fan of at Arkansas. At least they should be. He is incredible. He is so much fun to watch. He's competitive. He's vocal. He's athletic. He's just that dude. And in this game, KJ Jefferson literally put the Razorbacks on his back time and time and time again. It ended up being a huge difference in this game. Like, he goes 19 of 29 for 287 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, and a pick, which I still think the pick was on the wide receiver for not fighting for the ball there in the end zone a little bit more, but is what it is. Incredible passing game. But then in the rushing game, he had 14 carries for 130 yards. That's 9.3 yards a carry. He got 2 touchdowns on the ground. So he had 4 total touchdowns in this game and over 400 yards of total offense himself between the air and on the ground. Incredible. Just absolutely incredible. And I wish I had a highlight that I could play of that play he had towards the end of the first half where Kansas thought they had him down. Guy was holding on his leg. KJ gets out of it and breaks more tackles and just keeps on running. KJ is incredible at making plays, at improvising, at throwing on the run. He had a couple ones where he's just, running down the side of the field and then just tosses a dart right there into a wide receiver who's running across the field as well. He's the best. He's the best to do it. And I think, honestly, when it comes to dual threat quarterbacks, I don't even think it's a question anymore. KJ Jefferson's the best dual threat quarterback to ever come through Arkansas. Now, some of you may disagree with that. Some of you may say, oh, well, Matt Jones, or, oh, well, Quinn Grovey. And that's nothing that's a slight against those guys. They're incredible. I mean, I love Quinn Grovey. I love Matt Jones. But when you're talking about the total package of arm and leg and decisions, playmaking ability, like size and athleticism, to me, nobody compares. Nobody comes close. KJ Jefferson's the best dual threat quarterback to ever come through Arkansas. And games like that, like you saw in the Liberty Bowl, where he doesn't have his best running back because Rocket Sanders went out. He's got 2 running backs to hand the ball off to. He's down 2 or 3 offensive linemen. And he also has 1 wide receiver in Matt Landers that he has thrown to a lot this year, but then a bunch of other guys that he hasn't thrown to a whole lot this season. And he still got it done. I mean, Matt Landers had a great game. 3 catches for 121 yards. Like, he was incredible again. But, Jaden Wilson had 2 catches for 47 yards. Ty Washington, a guy that a lot of people didn't even realize or know who he was. He had a touchdown catch for 17 yards. Bryce Steven had a catch. Hudson Henry even got in on the action too. Nathan Bax, a guy named Harper Cole, he got one. Isaiah Santana caught one. Like, you had so many different wide receivers that were involved that KJ, I'm sure, has thrown to in practice and has been practicing with leading up to this point. But as far as the game goes, you were without literally 3 of your top 4 wide receivers. You were without Jaden Hazelwood. You were without Ketron Jackson, and what he was able to do this year. And then, I mean, you could probably throw in a Trey Knox because he was a guy I think that was actually 4th on the team in receiving. So he was without 3 of his 4 best targets, and they still got it done through the air for 287 yards. That's KJ. I think Kendall Briles, for the most part, called a really good game. And I know some people are going to get mad and yell and say you're an idiot. And why are you always defending Kendall Briles? Because some people hated some of the calls that he made. I'm like, dude, I thought overall he called a masterful game. Like, not every play call is going to be perfect. Not every play is going to be perfectly executed. Like, there's not always going to be those cases. But just because a play does not work out doesn't mean it's a bad play call. Could be execution. Could be a lot of these guys that still aren't, fully – young guys are still trying to figure out the offense and figure out their role and all that. There's a lot of pieces that go into it, but the only thing that I would say is I think when Arkansas started playing a little bit more conservatively in the second half, I didn't really like that. And I think that even Sam Pittman talked about that too, and how it shouldn't be, one of those things that should ever happen and doesn't need to happen anymore. Because you saw what could happen when you got your team that you're just running down their throat and you're able to do whatever you want. You got to be able to make some other plays and be able to continue to score at will, because you never know when they'll come back. And I give a lot of credit to Kansas. Like, they fought, man. They wanted this one bad. But the fact that Kansas was pretty much full strength as a team, and then Arkansas was down a lot. I mean, a lot on their team, and still found a way to win, still found a way to be very successful offensively. You got to give, again, credit to everybody, but KJ Jefferson's that dude. I mean, he's the difference maker. He fought. I think even Sam Pittman called him Superman after the game, which is 100% true. That's what it felt like. He is Superman. And I just can't. I'm so glad he's coming back, and I'm so glad he's Arkansas's quarterback. He has a chance. I think next year, I know we talked about this last week. I think next year he will be preseason first-team All-SEC quarterback. It'll be between him and the kid from LSU. I guess Jaden Daniels, I think is his name. I'm getting it wrong. I don't know. I'm going off not much sleep. But the LSU quarterback, I think, probably will be there in the mix too. Maybe he gets first team because LSU kind of has that benefit. But I just don't see any way, shape, or form that – I know I said this last year too, but KJ is going to be one of, if not the best quarterback in the SEC heading into the season next year. They got to get him some more pieces and more weapons to throw to. They got to get guys healthy. Got to get I think the offensive line performed well, and I think the running backs are going to be great. Hopefully Rocket, his injury is nothing too serious. He was in a boot and street clothes after the game, so hopefully it's not too serious or anything like that. But he's great. And that's what's going to really make Arkansas's offense go even more so next year, is if they just continue to get some weapons around him. But, wow, just what a performance. What a performance by KJ. Can't say enough about him. Love that dude, and love the fact that he's at Arkansas, and love the fact that he's coming back to Arkansas as well. We will talk about the Razorback basketball team, unfortunately, here in just a second. But first, hey, just remember, folks, if you're hanging out with friends and you're putting back a few drinks, and when a few drinks become too many and the evening starts to come to an end, people starting to leave, you may think of calling for a ride, right? Calling up the Ubers, whatever it may be. But you're like, hey, I live nearby. I don't have to worry about it. I can make it home okay. No big deal. What are the odds you get pulled over anyways, right? I mean, even so, what's the worst that could happen? Your insurance goes up. You lose your license. You lose your job. You're totaled your car. Maybe even kill somebody. Everyone knows about the risk of driving drunk, and the results are tragic and often deadly. However, that doesn't stop everyone from getting behind the wheel while under the influence. That's why police officers are out there looking right now for impaired drivers on the roads to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Play it safe and plan ahead and get a ride. It only takes one mistake to change your life or someone else's forever. Drive sober or get pulled over.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I'll admit, Razorback Basketball last night, I didn't get to watch the entire game because it was the Liberty Bowl and I was there and going to the celebration on the field and all of that. Didn't get to watch, but I did watch the end of the game too and kind of watched some highlights and went back and looked at some recaps. Frustrating game for Arkansas last night. And I think Arkansas, I still don't think LSU is a great team. I think they played fairly well last night. They played good enough to win, obviously. But I think last night was more about Arkansas playing really poorly. They missed 20 layups. Arkansas missed 20 layups in this game. They went 4 of 25 from three-point land. That's awful. And they went 5 of 10 from free throw line. So not a lot of free throws for either team because LSU went 6 of 12. But there were times in clutch situations towards the end of the game, like Ricky Council missing free throws and missing front ends of 1-and-1. You know, Anthony Black missed a free throw too, which Council was a surprising one. He went 2 of 5, and he was shooting over 80% coming into this game. So very uncharacteristic things that were happening. And then I thought that people were getting after me because they were like, oh, you were blaming the officials for losing this game. No, I wasn't blaming the officials, but I did think that at the end of the game, there should have been like Anthony Black pretty much got slapped in the face and nobody reviewed it, didn't get called or anything like that for, I thought it would at least be a flagrant and give Arkansas 2 shots in the ball. I still thought Ricky Council got fouled at the end of the game, but thankfully, ESPN2 decided not to show any replays of that, so we couldn't really know for a fact whether or not he got fouled. I guess they just forgot to hit the replay button or something like that. So there were a couple of things that again, maybe a little bit of home cooking, whatever it may have been. But again, that's not the reason why Arkansas lost this game. They lost because they just didn't play well. And the fact that you had Anthony Black, Ricky Council, and Devo Davis play all 40 minutes of this game. Mekhi Mitchell played 36, and Jordan Walsh played 32. That's a lot of minutes for the starters. Yeah, Kamani Johnson played 7, Jalen Graham played 3, and then Joseph Pinion played 2. But the starting 5 literally played almost the entire game. So the fact that Arkansas played poorly, bad, did not do a good job, especially offensively, and still almost won this game, should give you still some good feelings about where it's going to go and how it's going to move forward. Like the Fountain kid last night had 14 points. He was really good, but it was the Hannibal kid that was averaging 4 points a game. He just comes in, scores 19. It was 9 of 14 from the field in 22 minutes. So sometimes it's going to be like that. But Arkansas didn't turn the ball over a lot. They only had 10 turnovers. They did out rebound LSU by had 44 to 39. So again, it was just this. You lose games. You don't want to lose games. It's frustrating. Well, it's all of that. But again, I just see last night's game is just they didn't play well. They didn't play well, and they still almost won. So they'll be all right. SEC play will continue to go on. They'll continue to have plenty of stuff to get excited about, and they'll have some big games. They got Missouri coming up next. I think it's next Wednesday. And Missouri just beat Kentucky at home. Now, granted, Missouri is playing in Bud Walton Arena, so I think Arkansas hopefully doesn't have any of those letdowns where they end up losing games and at home that they should. And they should beat Missouri, but they got a week to let this one sink in and get better and recap and get after it. And I'm not making excuses either. I'm not, because again, Arkansas, that's the game they should have played. They should have won last night. But man, it's like you think with Arkansas struggling as bad as they did offensively, they have Nick Smith in there. Just how big of a difference that makes. You win the game last night if Nick Smith plays. So it'll be all right. Arkansas only scored 19 points in the first half. That ain't going to get it done. That ain't going to cut it. That ain't going to cut it at all. Like Arkansas is great defensively. They'll hold teams to a lot of points. But I don't know. I just call me a homer, bias, whatever it is. But I just love the fact that they're like national. Like, what a huge win! That just was a statement win for LSU. Blah blah blah. Look at that. I was like, yeah, you got to give them credit because they won. But again, it's more about Arkansas playing bad. I don't think LSU did anything like to really. I mean, they played good defensively, but Arkansas just didn't make shots, and they didn't make free throws down the stretch when they mattered the most. So I don't know. It's frustrating. I think Arkansas will be fine. Devo was the leading scorer. He had 16 points in this game, 2 of 8 from 3. Stop taking so many three-pointers, Devo. Council had 13 points. He went 5-19. Jordan Walsh had 13 points as well. Anthony Black, I mean, he had a pretty good stat line, though. He had 7 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal. So he did a really good job there too. Devo with 16-6, 2-2. So I mean, there was some decent stuff there, but yeah, they gotta get healthy, got to get back after it. And again, this is just don't want to lose, but it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be just fine. Appreciate everybody listening into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast today. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at BuzzJohnNabors for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. We'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you then.